What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box. Today we got some Assetto Corsa with the Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus P45 Competizione, otherwise known as the coolest not Ferrari race car. Because it's not a Ferrari, technically. It is not a Ferrari. Even though the one-off, one-of-a-kind road car is a Ferrari. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works out entirely, but I guess sponsorship and all that crap. But yeah, I was definitely looking forward to seeing this car released. Thankfully, it came early on in the beta here, which is very, very nice. So we got the one that I wanted, absolute most with the E30 right off the bat. The race car that I wanted most, second pack, not bad. I like these guys. These guys are good. I like them. Obviously driving at Mugello here, which is the newly released track. The other new track is a drift circuit, which I'm not sure you'll ever see here because, well, as I've mentioned before, with the Formula Rim, where my Club Sport wheel, drifting is basically sketchy at best. It's not impossible, just not very consistent. But for you guys out there, especially you live for speed fans, I'm guessing, there is a drift circuit, there is drift scoring and points and all that good stuff, so it might be worth a look. So we'll shoot the corner there. I am running this car in what I consider a realistic fashion. I think there is some confusion with the Assetto Corsa where the default tires on the race cars are automatically the super soft tires, which in a race car, endurance race car like this, or the M3 GT2, super softs, if they even exist, are probably only going to be for qualifying only, or alternatively running them at a cold night at Le Mans where getting heat into the tires itself is a huge challenge. Obviously with the huge straightaways and everything, you know, it's not a realistic race setup. It's not what they would actually be running outside a very small handful of conditions. So I'm running on these super hard tires, which are the hardest compound available, with a full tank of fuel. Also done some setup changes just to try and get the car to be a little bit more lively. This car is just so nice. I want the Nürburgring, I want it now. Now the other cars released in this first update, they will be doing updates every 2 weeks, they say. And this is the first batch, as well as a rather healthy changelog, but I won't go into all of that detail and everything because that just going to be a little over the top. The other cars released in this update were the Lotus 211, which is absolutely fantabulously good fun, as well as the Pagani Zonda R, which is a missile. That thing will do 190 down this straightaway with ease. Thing is just a rocket ship. I'm sure you'll end up seeing both of those cars on my channel fairly soon. But let's talk a little bit about this car because I'm not sure a lot of people actually know what this car is, which is basically a one-off, one-of-a-kind. It's not a Ferrari. You can't call it a Ferrari, so don't ever call it a Ferrari. Ferrari. This car raced in the VLN series a couple times, ran the 24 hours of the Nürburgring somewhat successfully. This is the 2011 version, which does not have curves. It has the old aerodynamics, no big honking fin, and I'm going really slow. This car was known to be, or at least complained about by the drivers, underpowered versus the competition. Underneath the skin, this car is basically what they call a 430 Scuderia crossbred with a 430 GT2 car. Both Ferraris, of course. It's somewhat interesting because I believe it's actually considered a F430 Scuderia simply so that way it can be road registered. Which, if I can do it, yep, right there, that's the New York State license plate, and that is the most awesomest thing on a race car ever. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. Race cars with license plates. Do like. I know I'm not from New York, so not just saying that. But this car was known to be underpowered. Basically, you know, the big thing is obviously over in the VLN, the Nürburgring 24. You know, the German manufacturers have a fairly helping hand in that, and obviously a one-off custom non-German car should not have a chance. Ja? So this car puts out probably roughly around 450 horsepower, which is similar to a GT2 car, but you know, compared to the field, not necessarily a whole lot. Among those lines, one of the interesting things is this car actually, I'm not sure if this is still true. It probably wouldn't still be true if Ferrari decided to take a certain car there, if they haven't already. But supposedly it's the fastest Ferrari-powered car around the Nürburgring Nordschleife ever. At a 651 versus the 658 for the 599 XX Extreme Edition. So it's a fast car. Then again, it's a race car. But that just is a testament to how much grip race cars have versus street cars. The fact that this car was able to go faster than a car with 350 more horsepower, you know, 300 more horsepower at best, you know, simply by being designed for the task. And the owner of the car actually, there's a forum thread on a Ferrari chat forums. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen it, but basically it came up during the 2012 Nürburgring 24, I believe. Is where I first saw this thread, where he basically goes through everything, tons of pictures, information, you know, covering the build of this car, which is really cool, really interesting. I mean, honestly, I know there's kind of some controversy, or there's some controversy when this car was built with the whole it's a Ferrari but it's not a Ferrari thing going on. I know some people are like, oh well, you know, it's just a borrowed car, it's a mutt. You know, I mean, it's not a real Ferrari, it doesn't have the history, you know, it's a joke, you know. Whereas I think it's really cool that he wanted this car, so he built it. And it is, in my opinion, the best looking Ferrari race car since the 60s or 70s, sports car wise. But I like it, that's what matters. You know, I find that type of thing, you know, really cool, because it does kind of provide a throwback to the old days, you know, kind of when you had guys thinking outside the box, doing radical things. You know, making cars that should not be fast or should not ever be made according to some people, but because they can, they did. But really, this car drives exactly like you would expect. It's predictable. It's not necessarily easy to get that last chunk of time out of it. I mean, no car is, but at the same time, it doesn't have any crazy tendencies. You know, it's... I think I need to carry more speed through that corner. I mean, this is just a very nice car, really because of the fact that it is, you know, over chassised to its engine. You know, being a F430 GT2 car, it's obviously very capable, and to be a little bit restricted from that, you know, it definitely makes it an easier car to drive, more predictable car to drive. Plus, it just looks awesome. It's got a great cockpit. The model's nice. It's a great paint job. And then again, I am a sucker for exposed carbon. Now, one of the other things within this update, besides the new content, there's been some updates, there's been some tweaking, some fixes, some sound improvements, but most notably, force feedback now has a couple of new settings in the menus for things such as slip angle being kind of transmitted into your force feedback, or you know, the curbing, the rumble strips being able to be, you know, channeled in, and you can control all that, the road surface, the bumps, which is very nice, and it's all controllable, which I absolutely love, because I think it should be controllable in a nice, easy fashion. You know, like I kind of mentioned in my previous Assetto Corsa videos, it's not necessarily more realistic to have all these bumps and to feel curbing coming through, you know, your steering wheel as it does if you turn it all the way up, as it does in a lot of other sims. But at the same time, when you're actually driving in a sim, it kind of makes a lot more sense because it feels more immersive. It feels more like you actually can feel the car, which, you know, things that you would usually feel through your backside rather than through your steering wheel. But obviously, most of us don't have motion rigs, so that's not necessarily something that's possible. Just a little bit of curbing feel, just a little bit of road strips, or road surface. I'm good to go. I like it. I like it a lot. Mugello is definitely an interesting circuit for where this preview currently is, you know, having no AI or multiplayer, because the fact that this track is just such an engaging drive. You know, there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of elevation changes into the corner. There's a lot of long sweeping corners. There's a lot of switchbacks. You know, it definitely tests out the car's handling and its capabilities and how it feels, how it's going to perform, which is a very nice thing, you know, here early on, where they're at. You know, I think kind of one of the things that I think a lot of people are missing is that, I'm not entirely sure if this is the case, but it certainly feels like it. You know, this game was originally supposed to come out in, I think they were shooting for 2011, or it might have been 2012. I might get my years confused. I know definitely 2012, they were hoping for the end of the year and, you know, to release everything all full-fledged, finished, ready to go, basically, and continuing development from there. However, you know, here it's now 2013. That's obviously not the case. So there's been something. It's like we've seen AI in this engine. You know, we've seen videos with it before. So it's not one of those things where it's like it hasn't actually been done or anything like that. But I think it's more of a case of, you know, they want us to actually be driving these cars and just focusing on driving. You know, focus on fixing the small things, and then, while we're doing that, so they can be working on the, you know, AI, the multiplayer, making sure that's improved, making sure that's where they want it. That way, rather than having a crappy launch, they can have a much smoother launch. As you see it time and time again, a bad launch will absolutely kill a game, especially in the racing sim market. You know, if the multiplayer doesn't work all that great, you know, very quickly, people aren't going to come back. So I think it's actually really a good thing that we're kind of more focused on just improving the driving and everything, making sure everything in that regard works. And, you know, wait for multiplayer. It's going to happen. You know, it's a certainty. It's just a question of when. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It's not necessarily a bad thing that we're still waiting for it. I would much rather have a polished driving experience that works really well than just having multiplayer when there's still some things to be fixed. This car is just so much fun. I do feel like, though, I don't have quite the throttle response I'd like. And that was an issue that they supposedly addressed, and they did address the actual issue. And that was basically there was a massive dead zone on the throttle. That's no longer the case as far as I can tell in any of the cars I've tested that for. I still feel like I'm driving really with the last 10% throttle travel. This is not very sensitive feeling to me. Still brilliant though. This car really does, to me, kind of feel like the logical progression of GT cars. This is basically exactly what I expect. I mean, obviously I've never driven this car, unfortunately. Wish I have, but you know, it's got that. It's starting to get that X factor. You can definitely feel it in the sim itself. I talked about this in my KTM video, that little X factor that just kind of felt like Assetto Corsa was missing. As part of the update, there was a tire model update, and I kind of feel like it's starting to get that X factor. It's one of those things I think R Factor 2 does really well, but you know, certain things in R Factor 2 just aren't quite to where they need to be, you know, in my opinion. So it's definitely taking steps in the right direction. This definitely is a nice car to drive, definitely is a treat. Just gotta make sure you take off the super softs, okay? It's like, yeah, I can put the super softs on and go instantly 4 seconds faster, but that's not racing. You know, that's hot lapping, which, yes, that's what we're doing right now, but you can also practice for racing conditions. Just because there's nobody to race doesn't mean that you have to just qualify, basically, you know. Man, this car has got a giant fuel tank. That is for sure. Still 87 liters left in the tank. Talk about some consistency there. Of course, obviously the car's going to be much faster as fuel burns off. I don't know, right now Assetto Corsa is really impressing me. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much in this video, but the 211, my goodness. Do some tweaking to that thing, change the setup a little bit. There are some setup issues or some things that aren't quite correct in that car that should be in the real world car. which undoubtedly, if you follow the support forums, you've noticed, as there's been a very popular post by a guy who actually drives one of those, who basically says that there's a couple of things wrong with the car in terms of the setup and everything, but once you kind of work around that, it's a pretty good car. Well, with that said, seeing I don't have anything really to talk about, I'm going to end the video here, and yeah, that's that. So I'm going to go ahead and do a full fuel run, but you guys don't need to watch that because that's just going to be boring. So hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.